The morning sun peeks through pale grey clouds over Burlington, turning the snow-laden rooftops into a blinding white panorama. The streets are slick with a patchwork of melting snow, ice, and salt-stained slush. The smell of wood smoke drifts from chimneys, mingling with the faint aroma of fresh bagels from Maple Street Cafe, where the early birds huddle over steaming mugs. Ethan Miller slogs through the half-frozen sidewalks, his boots crunching the ice that refuses to yield. He's wearing a navy puffer jacket that has seen better winters, a beanie skewed slightly to the left, and gloves with one finger missing, a small casualty of last week's adventurous snowball fight with his neighbor, Mrs. Callahan, the 70-something retired schoolteacher with a mean aim. Ethan mutters to himself as he walks, if ice had a personality, it would definitely be passive-aggressive. Of course, the universe hears him. At the exact moment he steps onto the icy patch in front of Burlington Hardware, he slips in a graceful, almost balletic arc, arms flailing like a confused windmill. He lands on his backside in a puddle that has clearly been hiding under the snow, water seeping through his jeans. A passing jogger, Tyler, a college student with headphones and an oblivious smile, glances at him and keeps running, nodding politely as if that somehow absolves him from offering help. "Welcome to late winter in Vermont," the narrator remarks, "where gravity works faster than good intentions, and water has no respect for dignity." Ethan shakes his head, standing up, water dripping from the tip of his beanie onto his nose. He stomps on the icy patch as though punishing it, muttering, "Next time, I'm renting those ice cleats." As he limps toward his first job of the day, repairing a broken door handle at the Thompson residence, a cheerful yellow clapboard house with a gabled roof, he notices little signs of spring struggling to show up. Patches of green grass are poking through the snowbanks. Icicles hang perilously from rooftops, and the lake's ice is cracking in intricate, spiderweb patterns. Ethan's client, Mr. Thompson, is an elderly man with a permanent twinkle in his eye, wearing a cable-knit sweater that has seen multiple generations. His wife, Marjorie, is bustling about, knitting while giving Ethan a long, assessing look. "So you're the famous Ethan Miller," she says. "We've heard tales." "Famous, huh?" Ethan thinks, smirking. "I prefer infamously clumsy." While repairing the door, Ethan's hammer slips from his glove-covered hand, bouncing off the hardwood floor and narrowly missing Marjorie's foot. The little bell on the door jingles as if in protest. He mutters, "Yep, just another Monday." After finishing the job, he steps outside to admire the half-melted sidewalks glistening in the morning sun. Across the street, a group of kids attempts to build a makeshift skating rink on the shallow pond behind the community center. Their laughter echoes over the neighborhood. Ethan can't help but smile. Life goes on, even if ice keeps reminding everyone that change is inevitable. He continues his rounds, stopping at Maple Street Cafe for a necessary mid-morning caffeine fix. There, he encounters Samantha, a barista with a quick smile and a penchant for teasing customers. "Careful out there," she says, handing him a large black coffee. "I saw you tango with the ice outside Burlington Hardware." Ethan grins. "It's called interpretive dance. Very exclusive." The cafe is warm, bustling with locals chatting, flipping through newspapers, and sipping lattes topped with heart-shaped foam. The smell of cinnamon and espresso fills the air. A toddler in a tiny snowsuit toddles by, spilling hot chocolate on a rug, prompting Samantha to sigh dramatically. "It's chaos," Ethan remarks. "And I thrive in chaos." Later, as Ethan walks toward the city park, he notices the lake ice cracking loudly. He pauses, watching the geometric patterns form and shift. A thin strip of sunlight catches the ice just right, and for a brief moment, it looks like stained glass. He kneels to touch the surface. The cold seeps through his gloves. The ice groans underfoot, a reminder that winter is giving way to something new. That, dear viewers, is ice telling you a secret, the narrator muses. Everything solid eventually transforms, sometimes gently, sometimes with a spectacular crack that scares small children. Ethan continues his walk, slipping occasionally but catching himself with theatrical flair, as though testing his limits. Along the way, he meets Mr. Alvarez, a retired firefighter who is feeding ducks and complaining about his knees. They exchange jokes about how ice is the universe's way of keeping old men humble. By afternoon, Ethan finds himself helping Mrs. Callahan retrieve her mail from the community mailbox after a particularly aggressive puddle nearly swallows her boots. The neighborhood watches with amused expressions as Ethan performs his heroic rescue, slipping and sliding but ultimately succeeding. Kids giggle. Adults shake their heads fondly. Sometimes, the narrator whispers, the ice melts not just under your feet, but under your pride. And when that happens, new forms emerge. Ones that laugh at gravity, winter, and slightly absurd humanity. As the sun begins to lower in the sky, Ethan sits on a park bench, watching puddles reflect the orange glow. He notices a small child attempting to cross a thin patch of ice and instinctively rushes to guide her safely across. She beams. He smiles. He realizes that while ice may crack and water may soak through your socks, those moments of connection, laughter, and helping others are the true transformations. By mid-morning, Burlington has fully awakened. The sun has pierced through most of the remaining clouds, turning the streets shiny with puddles and the lingering sheen of ice. Children stomp through the wet snow, creating tiny geysers with every boot. The air smells of thawing earth, wood smoke, and the faint sweetness of maple syrup wafting from local diners. Spring whispers are unmistakable, even if winter isn't ready to surrender entirely. Ethan Miller wakes to the sound of dripping water from his gutters, a gentle percussion that signals the inevitable transformation. He pulls on his damp gloves, zips up his navy puffer, and steps out into the soggy neighborhood. The ice from yesterday's chaos has softened further, leaving shallow puddles and a network of slippery spots that he navigates with the honed skill of a man who has mastered both clumsiness and humility. Ethan's first stop is the community center, where the city is hosting a spring cleanup initiative. Volunteers of all ages gather with buckets, rakes, and cheerful determination. The organizers hand him a bright orange vest with "Volunteer Extraordinaire" scrawled on the back, possibly a joke, definitely a morale booster. He dons it with mock solemnity. This, the narrator muses, is where winter starts to teach life lessons. Ice melts, water flows, and even the most reluctant souls find a new form. Ethan immediately trips on the first icy patch near the parking lot, landing in a puddle that soaks the knees of his jeans. The volunteers gasp. One little girl, Lily, giggles uncontrollably. Ethan stands, arms outstretched for dramatic effect. "I meant to do that," he declares, demonstrating proper puddle navigation technique. He spends the morning helping neighbors clear debris, shove melting snow off walkways, and organize supplies. Mrs. Callahan arrives with a thermos of cocoa, insisting Ethan try some, though the warmth of the drink does little to dry his soaked jeans. He sips and declares it life-changing, almost as transformative as ice into puddle. At the park, Ethan spots Sam Patel, a local teen trying to salvage a wooden bench from warped boards. He rushes over to assist, and in the process, nearly topples into the half-melted pond. Sam yelps, but Ethan steadies himself, quipping, "I'm basically a professional in avoiding total submersion." The morning progresses with comedic misadventures. Rakes snap, a wheelbarrow tips over, someone accidentally releases a flock of pigeons that take flight in dramatic protest. Ethan laughs alongside everyone, realizing that the chaos of melted ice, slippery, unpredictable, and relentless, mirrors the way life often unfolds. Ice, once solid and unyielding, becomes water and flows into spaces it never imagined. People do the same. Some slip, some puddle, some splash, others in the process, but transformation is inevitable. During lunch, Ethan sits on a bench with Samantha, the barista from Maple Street Cafe who brought sandwiches for the volunteers. They talk about dreams, fears, and past mishaps. Ethan confesses he's been hesitant to pursue his own small handyman business beyond the odd jobs because he feared failure. Samantha smiles. "You already help the community. You just need to trust that your form, whatever shape it takes, is enough." Ethan thought about that, the narrator says. And for once, he considered that maybe his spills, trips, and puddle dances weren't flaws. They were features. A new form, crafted by chaos and a little courage. Afternoon arrives, and the sun warms the wet sidewalks. Neighborhood kids begin an impromptu hockey game on a puddle-filled half-rink, slipping and sliding, laughing uproariously. Ethan joins in, wielding a broom as a makeshift stick. He falls multiple times, skids into the goalpost, and accidentally flips the puck into a volunteer's bucket of recyclables. Everyone laughs. Even Mr. Thompson, watching from a nearby porch, shakes his head with a chuckle. The playful chaos brings the entire community together. Ice melts, puddles form, boards get fixed, and laughter fills the air. By evening, the neighborhood looks tidier, brighter, and somehow lighter. The lake's ice has receded, revealing dark, reflective water that catches the setting sun like a molten mirror. Ethan walks along the lakeshore, boots squishing through wet sand and small puddles. He notices reflections of trees bending in the water, distorted but beautiful. The symbolism isn't lost on him. Life, like ice, changes shape. One form dissolves, another emerges. Funny thing, the narrator observes, Ethan realized he hadn't done much more than help clear puddles and trip over frozen mud all day. But he also realized he had transformed a little himself into a more patient, braver, slightly soggier form of human being. He stops near the pier, where a young couple is trying to photograph the melting ice for a scrapbook. Their dog leaps into a puddle, sending water splashing onto Ethan. He laughs. The scene feels absurdly perfect, people connecting, ice disappearing, a community forming in miniature chaos. Night falls, and the sky glows a soft pink and orange over Burlington. Ethan returns home, wet socks and jeans forgotten in the thrill of the day. He peeks out his window at the streets below, now glistening puddles reflecting streetlights. He can hear distant laughter from neighbors and the occasional squeak of children playing in the lingering ice remnants. Transformation, the narrator concludes, doesn't have to be grandiose. Sometimes it's puddles, spilled cocoa, and wet jeans. Sometimes it's helping a neighbor, laughing at yourself, and realizing that the world, like ice, is never static. It just keeps melting into new forms, and we get to flow along with it. Ethan sits back with a warm drink, finally dry, reflecting on the day. He smiles, thinking about the people he's met, the laughter, and the small victories of helping the community. He knows life will throw him slippery patches again, but he now understands that the slips, the splashes, and the occasional puddle are all part of the journey. The camera pans over Burlington at night, streetlights glowing over wet streets, rooftops with residual icicles catching the moonlight, the lake shimmering dark and deep, and the community lights glowing warmly like fireflies. Ice melts, the narrator says one final time. And when it does, new forms appear. Some you planned, some you didn't, but all of them, worth it.
Like and subscribe if you want to be happy and motivate.